Welcome to Arkansas Wildlife. Winter is upon us and food sources for wildlife are dwindling all across the natural state. One of the most important sources is also one of the smallest. Whether you call it an acorn or an acorn, this little nut plays a big role in feeding many species of Arkansas critters. A little later in the show, we're headed to Bayou Meto Wildlife Management Area for a late season duck hunt. Arkansas is known around the world as a top duck hunting destination, and a big reason for that is the abundance of flooded green timber. Although conditions have been quite dry this year, when the rain falls and the water does hit the woods, the results can be spectacular. But first, it may be wintertime, but the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's Fisheries Division is still out there trying to improve the natural state's fisheries. There's a renewed focus in our Fisheries Division on improving habitat and also stocking more than just game fish. Today we're headed to Lake Maumelle to see how stocking threadfin shad will hopefully improve the fishery for years to come. All that and this week's winner of a free hunting and fishing license right after this break. Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by Academy Sports and Outdoors. For all, for less. The Arkansas Game and Fish Commission is switching gears in fisheries management, and it starts with habitat. The new plan focuses on producing quality fisheries by restoring habitat across the state. Another component of producing quality fishing is developing a solid forage base. A strong foundation of the aquatic food chain yields positive results at the top of it. Consider the case of Lake Maumelle. It just received a healthy stocking of threadfin shad from a nearby nursery pond to boost its forage base. Raising shad in the pond next door to the lake improves both the quantity and quality of a lake sport fish.
The reason why we like to use a nursery pond is it gives us a predator-free environment to grow a forage fish like a threadfin shad. You know, we stock the adults, then they're free to spawn and feed and just grow. You have very little mortality. Might have a little bit of natural mortality over the summer, but you don't have the mortality from getting eaten by other predators. So that allows us to basically turn 24,000 fish into about 300,000 between April and November, and give a pretty strong stocking into the lake. This is about the average size of the juveniles that were spawned this year in the nursery pond. There's a juvenile threadfin shad, 2 to 3 inch fish, about 300 of them to a pound. That's mostly what we're going to be stocking into the lake, plus whatever adults are left over from April.
Other game and fish nursery ponds serve different purposes.
Other ponds across the state might grow largemouth bass fingerlings or black crappie or something like that. And basically it's a way where you can grow fish in the pond and it stocks directly into the lake. You don't have to handle the fish, you don't have to load them on a truck. You just open the gate and the fish basically flow through the pipe out straight into the lake.
While stocking bait fish and restoring habitat are crucial to great fisheries, keeping tabs on the health of sport fish has always been a priority for the Game and Fish Commission. Countless netting, electrofishing, and angler surveys are performed regularly each year. Lake Maumelle's crappie fishery is currently under observation. By using lead nets, fisheries biologist Justin Homan can gather information on Maumelle's crappie.
These lead nets are kind of a counterpart to our more traditional trap nets that we use for crappie sampling. These lead nets seem to work better in these clearer reservoirs, these bigger reservoirs. Past trap net catches here at Lake Maumelle have been about 1 fish per net per night. So pretty low. You could run 90 net nights and only catch about 90 fish. And here, we've done September, October, and this first part of November, and we're well over 100 fish for the sample, and we're going to keep sampling all the way through January. So it seems like these are going to be better nets to just improve our ability to catch crappie out here on Lake Maumelle and some of our other lakes like Lake Norfolk and some of our bigger Corps of Engineers lakes.
Crappie usually hang around a deep structure this time of year. Thanks to side scanning technology, finding the fish and setting the nets has never been easier.
We're trying to find pieces of structure that look like they have fish on it and set as close to we can without getting our nets hung up in them. This right here is kind of an old point that comes way off an island and drops off at the end. It's got some structure on the end of it. Scanning 100 feet to the side, there's part of the net right here. You can see the lead, and then there's the other end of the net. So I was trying to get close to that. Obviously, I'm a little away from it, trying to keep from tearing the net up, but that's the net right there.
With the successful placement of the lead nets, it doesn't take long to load the boat with plenty of crappie to study.
All in that one side. We're collecting length, weight, and we're also going to age 10 fish per inch group. So what we're looking at is we're looking at the size distribution, what's out here, what's available for anglers to catch, how fast are they growing. We want to make sure they're not stunted, not overcrowded to where they're not growing to a large enough size to keep and harvest like anglers want, but we also want to make sure that there's not, mortality is not too high, which we can look at that based on our age, number of fish in each age class. If you only see a couple younger age classes and very few older fish, it tends to show you that maybe the fish are getting harvested before they get a chance to grow too large or too old.
274.
225 to 274 is closed. We don't need any more of those.
Through a combination of studying populations, restoring degraded habitat, and adding fish to the forage base, the Game and Fish Commission is setting the stage for improved fishing opportunities for generations to come. Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by the Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation. Support wildlife and conservation education in the natural state. Become a member today. Quick question. How do you pronounce this word? A-C-O-R-N.
It's acorn. That's an acorn.
Acorn.
That's acorn in Arkansas.
I'm from Illinois. That's an acorn.
How do you pronounce this word?
Acorn.
Acorn?
Acorn.
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 So you have to be from St. Louis north to call it an acorn.
It's an acorn in Arkansas, southeast Arkansas, Pine Bluff. I have a lot of them in my front yard.
No matter how you pronounce it, this little nut plays a big role in feeding many species of Arkansas wildlife. When the leaves turn each autumn, acorns fall like raindrops, feeding Arkansas critters large and small.
Acorns probably explain about 95% of the variance of the squirrel population. They're highly dependent on acorns. Their choices, I mean, they're the original forester, if you will. They go along and plant them and eat them. I mean, their lives are highly correlated to the mass crop. So, very important asset for squirrels.
They're also important for white-tailed deer. Would you believe acorns can make up as much as 75% of a deer's diet in late fall and early winter?
They're very important, and they come at a crucial period of the year. You're leaving that summer stress period. You've got females out there that's been lactating, and lactation demands they can lose 20 to 30% of their body weights due to lactation demands. So acorns hit at that time of year. They're high in fat, they're high in carbohydrates, so they restore the body condition for the female. For the males, for their bucks, it puts them in real good standing to go into the rut. So they're building up their fat reserves for a period of time where their eating is really going to diminish, and they're going to lose a lot of their body weight. So acorns fall at that period in the year where it's crucial for deer, for the doe to build herself up and for the buck to get ready for breeding.
Arkansas's bottomland hardwood forests provide a unique habitat where wintering ducks feast on a smorgasbord of acorns.
The acorns in there provide not a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of lipids, so really that high energy source throughout the winter months, and really makes sense given when those habitats flood, when acorns become available, when ducks arrive in them. It's also a time of year when ducks really need a lot of high energy foods. To complete courtship and pairing, they need a lot of energy. They need enough energy to support all the extra activity it takes to engage in courtship. It takes a lot of energy, particularly for a male, to put on courtship flights, participate in courtship flights, essentially to maintain that pair bond, which really boils down to running off other intruders that may want to come in and also try to challenge that bond. So they need the energy from those acorns to get those fat reserves up, to get the reserves to the point where they can actually conduct those events.
29 species of oaks are native to Arkansas. They're divided into two main groups, red oaks and white oaks. Many wildlife species prefer the taste of white oak acorns because they contain fewer tannins and aren't as bitter. Though not as palatable, red oak acorns are also an important part of the wildlife diet. Regardless of variety, acorns have been called the cheeseburger of the forest. They're easy to find and nicely packaged for consumption. Acorns are high in fat and protein and packed with calories. And as many hunters know, finding acorns often means finding wildlife.
There's a high correlation with the number of squirrels and the mass crop. And for a squirrel hunter, man, you definitely want to pay attention to it when they're looking for high protein, high carbohydrate diets versus nuts with high fats, high proteins. The amount of acorns that make it, the types of acorns that make it, when they make. I mean, you can hunt the whole forest and see virtually nothing, and then go to one tree that's hot, man, and kill a limit of squirrels. So they really rely on acorns quite a bit.
You go out to the woods, you go out duck hunting, and you just think a tree is a tree. Maybe we know the difference between cypress and some oaks, but within the oak trees, there's huge differences in the value to ducks. And mainly it boils down to the acorn being small enough that a duck can actually get it in its mouth. It's as simple as that.
White-tailed deer in the Ouachitas and Ozarks rely heavily on acorns.
Parts of our state are very mass dependent. When you look at the Ozarks and the Ouachitas, it's a closed canopy forest. And so when those acorns hit, that time of year is very crucial because there's very limited browse on the forest floor. If we have a poor mass crop, you may see that for future years. It'll impact their body weight, which may impact, especially with our females, the number of fawns produced that following spring. We don't know that relationship, the clear relationship between acorns and fawning, but it could potentially impact fawning for that following spring.
Whether they fly through the treetops, jump through the limbs, or forage on the forest floor, many species of wildlife survive and thrive on the tiny acorn. But even our wildlife biologists disagree on one thing about this important wildlife food.
I've been chastised for pronouncing it acorn.
But it's not an acorn, it's acorn.
Acorn. I still pronounce it acorn. Unless the crowd is particularly hostile, then I will say acorn just to try to fit in.
Arkansas Wildlife is brought to you in part by Arkansas's own PK Grills, maker of the new PK 360, the best and last grill you'll ever buy. When it comes to duck hunting and flooded green timber, there's no place like home.
Oh, I laid off of her. I was trying to keep it green, dog.
Arkansas is known far and wide as one of the world's top duck hunting destinations. And the biggest reason for that reputation is the abundance of seasonally flooded bottomland hardwood forests. Despite losing much of its historical bottomland hardwoods to the saw and the plow, Arkansas has fared better than other states in the lower Mississippi River floodplain. Better still, many of the largest tracts of seasonally flooded green timber are open to public hunting.
is not available on this scale really anywhere else in the world. You just don't have these large blocks of public land like we have in Arkansas that are accessible to pretty much anyone can go out there and participate in green timber duck hunting.
The crown jewel of Arkansas public green timber hunting is Bayou Wildlife Management Area. Spanning roughly 32,000 acres in Arkansas and Jefferson counties, Bayou is the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's first and largest wildlife management area. More than 13,000 acres are managed as seasonally flooded green tree reservoirs, which provide important habitat for migrating ducks and opportunities for hunters. The Bayou Basin includes 6 watersheds encompassing more than 900,000 acres. At the basin's lower end, numerous bayous, ditches, and sloughs start running together to form a wilderness wetland that has attracted hunters for generations. Although the area known as the Scatters has been plagued by problems and controversy since Game and Fish purchased the first parcels in 1948, most duck hunters will tell you it's been worth the trouble.
That was beautiful.
Duck hunting at Bayou comes with its share of difficulties. When the ducks are here in good numbers, word travels quickly, meaning there's often competition for the best hunting spots. Highly pressured ducks become wary birds and can be skittish about dropping below the treetops. But when everything comes together, the results can be spectacular. Arkansas Wildlife presents the Watch and Win giveaway. During each episode of Arkansas Wildlife, we'll give away an Arkansas resident hunting and fishing license, a $35.50 value provided by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Visit the Arkansas Wildlife webpage at arkansaswildlife.com and click on the Watch and Win icon to enter. This week's winner is Michael Albritton from Monticello.
Congratulations, and thanks for watching.